All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a nice morning so far. I'm Amanda Uten, the new director of OCSAA, and this is a workshop to help you and guide you in writing your school improvement goal and then ultimately your school improvement plan. So please let us start with prayer. If you have any special intentions, please hold those intentions in your heart. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty God, you sent forth your Son as a beacon of hope for all people. As a teacher, he has given us the prime example of the importance of education. As disciples, we look to him for inspiration and strength. Thank you for the many people who have dedicated their lives in service to our Catholic schools. Thank you for the teachers and administrators who sustain our schools. Thank you for the parents who give support and witness to the importance of Catholic education. Thank you for the students who work hard to further their education. Bless all our Catholic schools and the many people who advance our mission. May our schools be a home for those who seek to grow in openness, faith, love, intellect, and commitment to justice. In your name we pray. Amen. And Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So just as that prayer said, I want to just thank all of you for being here and for your work in Catholic education. I'm so excited about where Catholic education is going in Ohio right now, and it's because of all of you who are so mission focused and dedicated to your schools and your community. So thank you for all that you do. So this is probably the first time many of you have met me. I just started this role a few months ago. I just thought I would introduce myself a little bit, and then everybody else can introduce themselves in a little bit, and we'll talk about the agenda for today. So I have been in Catholic education my entire career. I started teaching high school biology in Dayton, Ohio. So if anybody used to teach AP biology, I love that course, and that was my home for a long time. Then I transitioned to administration in a large elementary school in Dayton, which is where my kids currently attend. And so now I get to work with all the schools. I work out of Columbus, and I get to visit all the schools and do wonderful work with all of you. As we are looking at who OCSAA is this year, I'm starting every training with a little bit of a background and a little bit of for-your information as an update to people who have been in Catholic education in Ohio for a while, but also for newer people who may not quite understand the process. So OCSAA was established in 1994, and it was established because before that time, the state was actually going into every single school and doing these site visits and doing these compliance checks. And there got to be too many Catholic schools, one, and too many that were not meeting those standards and having to be on these school improvement plans. So the bishop and Catholic school leaders got together, formed this independent accrediting association that oversees all Catholic schools in the whole state, and created this wonderful mission to strengthen Catholic school identity, to help engage in the ongoing school improvement process. And then the second really big part of OCSAA is that compliance, right? Making sure all schools know and are complying with the operating standards and all of the rules and regulations. So I love the school improvement part. I know not everybody loves the compliance part, but that is part of it. And we all have to make sure, especially with heightened transparency in Ohio, that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're actually probably doing more than we should be doing is the goal. So here's what we're going to do today. We'll introduce everybody here in a second. We're going to look at the self-study very briefly of what that year one looks like. I think most of you are in year two. You're starting to look at what your goal is and what your plan wants to be. You've already done your self-study, but some of you probably are in year one. We'll look at the goal and what are some good goals. And then we'll look a lot more at those templates and writing your plan. We'll have some time for collaboration and some breakout rooms, and then we'll have some final tips and takeaways. So we have a good amount of people here. So I think in the interest of time, what I'm going to have everybody do in the chat, if you could maybe just state your school, what diocese you're in, and what year of implementation you're in the chat. Excellent. Thank you. So it looks like we've got a good mix of elementary and high school and a really good mix of all the dioceses. And then we also have some advisory members here as well. So you may recognize some of them from your own diocese. But these are the Catholic Schools office staff who help you with your, kind of on the ground. They're doing their internal visit maybe here coming up. They're helping you with your self-study documents, helping you walk through what is the EBT. So thank you to those advisory members who are joining us today. So a lot of good experience in the room. So when you RSVP'd, I had you share with me just a little bit about what you were looking for. And so these are some of the things that you all said. I hope to address most of these things. I probably won't be able to address all of them. And I will certainly give time for questions throughout. Your questions are really, really valuable. If you have that question, I'm sure other people do. So when I ask if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask, even if you think it's a very specific question to your school. I'm happy to help. We have our advisory members here who might be able to assist. This is the time for you to get that help and to ask those questions. So I have a pre-assessment poll on the next slide. So if you would please rate yourself on how well right now you think you understand the goal plan writing process. 1 being you have no knowledge, 5 you're completely familiar. And then also maybe just on your notebook off to the side, if you could write down your own personal 1 to 3 specific questions that you hope to have answered today. So for these polls, you will get out your phone and you'll just snap that QR code. It'll take you to the poll and you don't have to log in. All you have to do is select your answer and press submit and it'll pop up on the screen. And we'll be doing this just a few times today. All right, so we have a little bit of a mix coming in of experience. No one. So we've got some people who are familiar. Hopefully this webinar will help you become even more familiar. As we go through today, I want you to keep this question in mind. Where do you want to be in 4 years? If you keep that question at the forefront of your goal and your plan writing, that will really help you stay focused on the big picture. Where do you want to be in 4 years? What do you want your students to be able to do? What changes do you want to see in teaching and learning and instruction in your school building? Make it meaningful to you as you go throughout this process. My favorite saying of Catholic education is, if you've visited one Catholic school, you've visited one Catholic school. You certainly have not visited them all. Every school has such a unique demographic and culture and community. So you need to write your plan that's going to work for you. So let's review this year 1 self-study portion, because this plays a very vital role in what your school is going to do in year 2. So in year 1, the school is building that school profile, your demographic data, who your parents are, who your teachers are, who your students are, what your community is like. You're looking at your mission and beliefs, maybe updating those mission and beliefs. And you are looking at data. Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses in student learning? Where are their strengths and weaknesses in the school's organizational effectiveness and professional development needs? Then you're supposed to take all of that, right, and write that goal and those plans in order to enter into your validation year. In the fall, you have an internal visit from the local diocese. And then in January, February, maybe March, you have that external visit, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on. And actually in the November newsletter, I'm going to focus a lot more on the EVT, the external validation visit. And then hopefully you get fully accredited at the end of that year 2. And then you have 4 years to implement that plan that you wrote, providing progress reports every year. So how does that self-study then flow into the plan? So as you are doing this, prayerfully consider all of these things, especially that end goal. Where do you want to be in 4 years? What are your data? What is your data telling you, strengths and weaknesses? Importantly, what's best practice out there right now, right? It's been 6 years since you've gone through this process. Education likely has changed in 6 years, especially the past 6 years with COVID and AI and technology. So spend some time, have your steering committee spend some time doing that valuable academic research. What is out there? And I'm really hopeful that this new monthly newsletter is providing you with some of those ideas as well. What available PD do you have? Do you live in an area that has got great universities available, or do you live in a rural area where you're really going to have to do a lot of it virtual? What are your surveys telling you? What is your profile telling you? And again, keep that end in mind. What do you want your students to be able to do at the end of 4 years? Both of your goals and plans should be student focused. What do you want your students to be able to do? So before we move into the next section of specifically goal writing, are there any questions at all from anybody on where you are in your plan or what this process is about?
We have a quick question about the surveys that are provided for us. Are those something that will be updated? I mean, as we talk about how so many things have changed and have updated, will those surveys continue to look the same, or do you expect those to change?
Great question. So this year, as my first year of director, we're really taking this year almost as a self-study year of OCSAA, right? We're going to do that school improvement process on ourselves. And we're looking at all of it, including the surveys. Those surveys have not been updated, not very much since they've even been written. So yes, I imagine that next year, those surveys will look different. Great question. Other questions? All right, goals. Goals should reflect content, skills, and competencies. If you are a leader who has gone through this before, it used to be that they could not contain content. That has been changed in recent years. A goal can contain content, information, or knowledge, but it still should focus at the end of the day on what students are able to do. So it's describing skills or competencies that they possess at the end of the program, at the end of the 4 years. So academically, they're written in terms of what students should be able to do. And in terms of the Catholic identity, the goal should have students put their faith in action, how they're going to be applying certain aspect of their faith. Other requirements, they should stretch beyond nationally expected current practice. They should involve all teachers and students. Again, the Catholic identity goal should be faith in action. They should reference specific Catholic teaching or traditions or beliefs or practices. Academic performance goal, again, research those best practices. It can be content along with critical thinking, evaluation, communication. Going back, many, many years ago, remembering the Bloom's taxonomy, the depths of knowledge, right? We might even talk about depths of knowledge later on, but think about those action verbs and how are you building those action verbs from year 1 to year 4? All right, so this is a brand new resource that we are really excited to be able to provide for our schools, for our EVTs, and also for the review committee. For those of you not familiar, the review committee is a group of leaders across the state that meet in the spring, and they review all of the plans that have gone through EVTs. They review all of the suggested action forms, and they ultimately make that decision of, yes, that school responded appropriately to all these suggested action forms and their plan looks good and they're good to go. So all 3 points along the process, the school writing it, the EVT, and the review committee are going to use this rubric. This rubric is on the resource page that I sent to you yesterday. So if you don't already have this open, could you please just take a minute to get on your computer and have this rubric open on another window or on another screen, please? So we're actually going to be using this rubric to look at some of your goals. You're going to write in your goals here in a minute, and we're going to help you, or at least some of you, with how your goal looks. Here are some example academic goals. Students will develop critical thinking skills through a gradual implementation of STREAM. They'll develop an understanding, demonstrate, and apply agency. That demonstrate and apply are going to be key words when you're looking at writing your goal, right? Because it's what students are able to do. Students will increase their ability to demonstrate and apply informational literacy skills. So that one sounds like a science of reading, right? That's been a big buzzword, a very big push by Ohio. Students will be able to increase their ability to evaluate articles, opinion pieces, information for their curricular areas of study. So getting those students to be critical thinkers and actually reading and evaluating what they're reading. Catholic identity goals. Students will demonstrate understanding of the care of other people of all God's creation. The second one, understanding Catholic social teaching of human dignity and solidarity. Catholic social teaching is great. There's 7 of them. Pick 1 or 2. Do not say that we're going to look at all 7 of them. That's impossible for any school to do. So make sure that you are focusing on what's going to work best for your school. This last goal, students at St. X will develop a deeper understanding of the Catholic Mass in order to strengthen their relationship with Jesus. That's actually not such a great goal. We could workshop that goal, right? Because that's not really how the students are showing their faith. So we still want them to get that deeper understanding of the Mass, but how can we write that in such a way that the students are actually showing the teachers in the community that they're doing that? So time to share. So here's what I would like for you to do. I'm going to put you guys into breakout rooms, and you're going to collaborate and share for 15 minutes on your goal, your plan ideas. And if you have time, and if you don't, it's okay because we'll do it together when you get back. But if you have time, maybe take one of the person's goal in your breakout room, maybe someone who has a pretty fleshed out goal, and look at the rubric together, okay? Because that whole first page of the rubric is just about the goal. It's clarity of the goal, it's specificness of the goal, and you can help that person maybe tweak their goal a little bit. But in general, this is just a time for you to collaborate, see if maybe you guys have similar goals or similar plan ideas, okay? I will get you back here in 15 minutes. Are there any questions before I put you guys into breakout rooms?
Sorry, can you please let me know where to find that page? I'm not finding it.
Sure. If you go to OCSAA.org,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the top, there's an accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the right, there should be a tab that says Administrator Resources.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath Administrator Resources, you'll see all of that. Here, let me, just for everybody, I'll put the link in the chat right now before you guys go to breakout rooms. Because once you're in breakout rooms, you won't be able to see the chat. So before you enter your breakout room, please make sure you've clicked that link. I also sent that yesterday. Specifically, you're going to want that rubric open. All right, so just a reminder about what you're doing in this breakout room for 15 minutes. Jen, is that not working? So for the next, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
No, that's sorry. I had that page open yesterday. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna click on what Barbara just put in. Thank you.
So for 15 minutes, collaborate with your breakout room to share where you are with your goal writing. Okay, so maybe you have a specific goal written, maybe you don't. And then again, if there's time, look at somebody's goal using that rubric. Session. I know I joined a breakout room, and it was really, really good conversation. One of the things that struck me that I thought I would share with everybody is no matter what goal area you choose, make sure that you are really communicating that out to everybody, students, teachers, but especially parents, community, parishioners, the pastor. this should be like everybody should know that, school X is really working on this. Two of the people in my breakout room we know we need to focus on service. All of the parents, all the teachers, all the students are dying to do more service and actually know what that looks like and what that feels like. And the thought I had was, we have this great new papal document to OCSAA that is all about, servicing the poor, so your goal has to tie in Catholic scripture or tradition or teaching. Well, this is a great brand new 2025 teaching. Not a lot of resources out there yet in terms of teaching it, but I'm sure that that's going to be coming. If you remember Laudato Si many years ago, that became a real call to action for us to care for God's creation. I think this one might become a call to action to serve the poor and focus our efforts on serving the poor. So consider doing some research and best practice on that. Thank you, Barb, for putting that in the chat. So that's the full text of the apostolic exhortation. All right, so now we're going to workshop some goals a little bit using the rubric. So get your phone back out and you're going to, if you have a goal, I know some of you say you don't have a goal yet, or if you have the start of a goal, would you please take a moment and put it in this poll? And then maybe we'll take one or two goals and use the rubric on it.
Amanda, while we're waiting on that, I just wanted to share, I don't know if all the dioceses have this tool, but the Diocese of Toledo, they came up with a goal writing AI tool. Is everyone using that?
So no, that's just a Toledo specific thing. But at the end of this workshop, I'm going to talk about using AI to help write your goal. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up though, Melinda. Has anybody put in a goal and it's just not popping up? Oh, here we got our first one. All right, so we've got two goals. By engaging in the design thinking process, students will strengthen their skills in empathy, critical reflection, creative problem solving, and prototyping testing. That's an interesting goal. Students will increase understanding of the Catholic morals and ethics and explain how it impacts decision making and problem solving. Ooh, both pretty good. Let's go with the first one, the design thinking process. Let's pull up the rubric. And just go ahead and unmute yourselves. We're just going to all do this together. So just say what you're thinking.
It was working, and it said that I had to go get my phone. All
right. So is the goal clear and specific? Clear, detailed, and specific with strong alignment to skill development and content mastery, and stated in terms of what students will do. Would you consider that exemplary, full, conditional, or does not meet the standard?
Verify this you're in a different location.
Can you move back to the goals, the other screen?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, yep.
Thank you.
Every time we turn on, but it is not. Thank you, Elizabeth Snowcroft. Yeah, so I got two saying I emails, I have emails saying things they change.
So the skill, so I'm looking at it, the skill to be the design thinking process. Students will strengthen their skills.
So do you think that it's written in terms or stated in terms of what students will do?
Well, they're saying that they're going to strengthen their skills. So it's not a specific thing of exactly what they will do, unless you're looking at that word strengthening to be an exact what's going to happen.
Right, right. So I think some people would look at that and say, it does say in terms of what people will do. I think some people would look at it and say it could probably be a little bit more specific. Maybe it might be conditional or full. I don't think right now it's specific enough in terms of what students will be able to do to be exemplary, in my opinion. Anybody have any thoughts or suggestions on how it could be better?
One of the thoughts too is maybe, do we need to focus on 4 different things like empathy, critical? I feel like that takes on a lot, the different pieces too, and that might help with figuring out what they should demonstrate at the end.
Yeah. Two thoughts on that. One, those 4 things could be written in the plan. That could be your 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe if that's what they wanted to do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be written in that goal statement. So yeah, I agree with you. Maybe focusing more that goal on some sort of output of the students.
I would like someone to try to insert the word explain or demonstrate. I don't want to say how I would write it, but I'm going to, for those who are participating, how will you rewrite that by inserting the word the students will somehow demonstrate or explain how these, and then the rest of that sentence.
Yeah, or using the word by too, by applying their skills to collaborative
Right.
engineering design challenges, or
Right.
by applying or by demonstrating. It almost needs to take away those 4 things and then maybe add by demonstrating, by applying.
Could I ask a question on this, on that goal? Is it designed for what grade limit or what grade are we looking at here? What school are we looking at?
Yeah, so Becky, that's a good point. Just we don't know, right? But when you go and you're doing an EVT, or your school is having, the EVT will know your school profile, they'll know your demographic data. So right now you're right. We're just kind of looking very general, trying to use this rubric. So the next part of the goal rubric is alignment with data and measurability. They kind of go hand in hand. So look at those 2 parts of the rubric and maybe share some thoughts about this goal.
I think like in a lot of goals, measurability is challenging. Measuring something like empathy in a qualitative and quantitative way is challenging. So I'd be curious as to what they planned to use for that. Beyond maybe a rubric, I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think too, when schools and EVTs and review go to use this rubric, they're going to use this part of the rubric also on the plan. So they're going to see what sort of data are they going to be collecting. So it's a little misleading. So those of you who are writing your goals, you don't necessarily have to have measurability or alignment with data written in that goal statement. Okay. You can if you can get it in there and if it makes sense. You don't have to. Otherwise, that goal statement's going to become really, really large and pretty burdensome. But just know that when your overall goal is assessed, they're going to be looking at your plan to see, can you measure it? Is it connected to some sort of data? When we look at the plan in a little bit, you'll see that the very first row is talking about where you are right now. Where did you end last year? What's your baseline? What's your foundation? And so that's going to be connected to something. I really like this goal. I just struggle to know what they're going to be. If you wrote this goal, I'm curious, what sort of data are you thinking you're going to tie this to?
So we'll be using ACT scores and then rubrics in the classroom across the board in all classes. The goal is we're a 9 through 12 building. And as in our breakout session, I had indicated, we're also in the process of going after a STEM designation. So it just ties beautifully to the efforts that we're making for that STEM designation, and really trying to be forward thinking with the kids. So and that is what our teachers asked the same things when we spoke with them about the goal, like what does this look like in the classroom, obviously, on a day-to-day basis and across content. But I think it looks and sounds very differently. But we have measurements and why my goal is not popping up. Surveys is definitely one of the things that we're using, the ACT, assignments in classrooms, things of that nature.
I would Google or look for something along the lines of student STEM assessment tool or student STEM self-reflection tool. Don't recreate the wheel.
Right.
These surveys, these assessments, these tools are out there and they're probably pretty well made. These third-party companies and research companies are making these tools, and most of them are publicly available. And that could be something you could give at the beginning and end of every single year, the same exact tool. The kids aren't even going to know it's the same exact tool. And
Yes.
that's give you a good measurement of their critical thinking, their collaboration.
Yes, we have that written in the plan of baseline data, for every year, actually. So
yeah, awesome, great. And then beyond current practice, yes, I definitely think, especially if you use the word design thinking, prototyping, engineering design process, I think that's going beyond current practice. Okay. We are going to move on past goal writing into school improvement plans. Before we do that, are there any questions?
One of the things, Amanda and the rest of you, this is my second year in here. They brought me in out of retirement, which that's another whole story. But however, one of the things that I've done is I've written a couple of grants so far, and we have become what they call a PLTW school, and it's a project Lead the Way. And we were blessed with the fact that we have a Marietta Community Foundation here that had decided this year that they were going to up to $3,500. They were going to give grants to to schools that would do something with the technology and things like this. And so as long as we were able to match it, we would get the full amount, which we did. We were able to match the $3,500. So we had a little over $7,000. And so we became a project Lead the Way, which we have now with our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. We are starting to add in some of our STEM programs. And we also have the 3D printers that they are working with. And since math is one of our goals as well, that we're looking toward that. I don't know if any of you have heard of Class Gaga A1. It's intelligent. It's a Class Gaga A1 is what it's called. It was a grant that we wrote, and it puts our students on on the screen. All of our students are enrolled in this, and they actually go in and practice their math. These kids love it. And it goes all the way up through, I think can go up through 12th grade, your Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and even beyond that. But what's really great about this Class Gaga is that they do an assessment of themselves, and then they put the A1 puts them in where they should be, and then from that point they start answering the questions, doing things in math, but it always gives an explanation. If they miss it, why did they miss it? And yes, it looks like it's something that the teachers should be doing, but the kids are loving this program. So that's something that we have implemented. So because we know that we want to use math as one of our improvements in the school, because that's where it has to be. So again,
Sure.
I don't know, we're starting down in our 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
time they get to junior high or whatever, they're going to have a lot of this information that our public schools do not have.
Well, thank you for sharing that resource. I even wrote that down. I haven't heard of that. So I think, again, going back to my main question of what's going to be meaningful for you and where do you want your school to be in 4 years? So it sounds like the Project Lead the Way is a new investment and goal and priority. So you can certainly incorporate that into your plan. I mean, if you're not incorporating that into your plan's not going to be meaningful because you're doing that. That's what you're doing, right?
Right.
So yeah, so work with your team next week. Like you said, you're meeting with them. How can you incorporate all of these things into your 4-year plan such that your students in all subjects, right? Not just that STEM class, right? Your goal isn't just that your kids are going to be 3D printing, right? That's not going to go above current practice. In all courses, how are they going to be using these skills that they're learning in these Project Lead the Way classes? How are they going to translate these skills to other classes? Any other thoughts or questions? All right, so we're going to spend the rest of the time now on writing the 2 school improvement plans. So hopefully you have an idea of what that goal area is. And now we're going to walk you through the 4-year plan. So the 4-year plan has components that repeat every single year, which is the baseline of student knowledge, professional development, implementation of that PD, changes in the instructional strategies and assessment, scaffolding of ongoing student learning, which is arguably the most important piece to really focus on, right? Because this is all about student learning and what students are doing. And then finally, review, reflect, and revising the plan. So this is what that template looks like if you haven't seen this yet. And this is also on that administrator resource page that I sent out. And you are going to, in the gray boxes, you can edit those boxes. You'll put in your school name, your OCSAA number, the date, and then this plan status is really important. This is just coming from my own experience. I'm going to give you a tip if this is your first time. Every time that you go and you really make significant updates to this plan, save as, and save it as a new date. That way you know the progression of the plan. Specifically, when you go to upload it to the portal and share it with me, share it with your diocese, this X needs to be in the right location. If this is your very preliminary that you're submitting for EVT to look at, you're going to mark an X on preliminary and make sure you save it with the date. And you're going to upload that to the portal. You're sharing that with your EVT. EVT is going to come back to you and say, here are some suggestions. It looks okay, but here are some things that maybe we thought could be better. You're going to revise it. You're going to mark it now as revised, save it as a new date with revised, upload it to the portal. And then again, after review, you're going to come back and maybe there are no changes after review. You'll just make it a final and then upload that to the portal. I know that was a lot. Your diocesan member will walk you through all of that and make sure you're doing the appropriate steps. Another resource on that page is this plan guide. This is overwhelming, I know at first, because there's just a lot of words, okay? But what is really important here are the questions to start asking yourself as you're sitting with your team and you're brainstorming, what is this plan going to look like? You do not need to answer every single question in every box. That will make each box a page long. These are just good things to be thinking about as you're writing your plan. So please make sure before you start writing your plan, you've at least opened this, you've read through some of these questions, and it's not just you, it's your whole steering committee, it's your staff, it's your team that's doing this collaboratively together. Guiding questions as you're brainstorming your plan. What should students know, understand, and be able to do? How will you know if students have achieved those results? What are we going to use as evidence? We were just talking about surveys or self-reflections, journals, diaries. What tools can you find or make that you're going to use? Same thing. How will we evaluate student performance? Are we going to make something new? Is it going to be a writing? Is it going to be a presentation? Is it going to be using ARC results? Is it going to be using MAP or iReady? If you are going to be using standardized results, make sure you focus what you're going to be looking at. ARC, I think, has 7 domains, I want to say. Focus on 2 of them. What are the 2 that are going to translate best to your goal and plan? Same with iReady, same with MAP. You can use those certainly as measurements, but it probably shouldn't be your only way of measuring. When you're planning learning experiences and instruction, how are you going to support learners as they come to understand? How are you going to prepare them to autonomously transfer their learning? Over 4 years, that should be what students are doing, right? Maybe year 1 and 2, they're gaining that knowledge, and then years 3 and 4, they're going to be applying it. What enabling knowledge and skills will students need to perform effectively and achieve desired results? And what activities, sequence, and resources are best suited to accomplish our goals? So this is looking down further on the plan. What is recommended often when you're going to start your plan is to actually start with box 23. Earlier, I said this ongoing student learning, this row is super important because that's what students are doing. So where do you want to be in 4 years? What do you want that big main event at the end of year 4 for your students to do? In a breakout room earlier, we were talking about mass participation. Okay, well, we can't just make a goal on mass participation, but maybe at the end of 4 years, maybe there's a big parent night and it's a holy mass celebration, and students are presenting on parts of the mass and they're demonstrating and applying and explaining why this part of mass is so important. So start there, right, at that community night or that big service project, and then go backwards. How are you going to get there? And you can build up from there. What needs to change in the classroom? And then if we're going to change that in the classroom, well, what do teachers need to know? What PD do they need in order to make those changes in the classroom? Looking at professional development, how are we going to support teachers as they come to understand this new idea? What do they need to effectively shift their instruction? What activities, sequences, and resources do they need? Importantly, make sure you're building into your plan how you're going to onboard new teachers. This is key. This should be in every, I believe we like to put it in the first row of every single year, or maybe it's in the PD row of every single year. That PD of every year is that opening staff meeting, right? That all-day staff meeting that everybody loves. There should be a whole segment on your accreditation goals and plans, and making sure everybody is aware of what the focus is for that year. I spoke earlier about these action verbs, these Bloom's taxonomy, depths of knowledge. I'm not going to go through all of this. This presentation, this exact PowerPoint is on the Administrator Resources website, so you can look at these verbs in the future. But this is just an example idea of how you can use these at different grade levels. You are going to have to be cognizant that not all of your students are 8th graders if you're a K through 8, right? So you're going to have to build that into your plan. And there are creative ways to do that, and your advisory member can help you with that. All right, so we've already seen this rubric. I just want to remind you that all 3 steps of the process are going to use the same rubric. So please make sure when you're writing your plan, you are using this rubric. Maybe even give this rubric to a separate set of teachers who aren't on the steering committee. You know, get them pizza one day after school and say, hey, come here, look at this plan, look at this rubric. What do you think? Teachers love a good rubric, right? Maybe that would be something good as a check before the EVT. Another resource, lots of resources, is this rubric companion guide. And actually, during the last workshop last week, most of the people actually appreciated this document the most, okay? So this is another guide that's going to provide common language for school, EVT, and the review committee. It's a 1-pager. It's just bullet lists. It's a little bit of a checklist to use while you're writing the plan. Like I said with the rubric, consider having faculty test groups use this as they review the written plans or drafts. And again, make sure you're sharing your plan, whether it's the writing of the plan or you're done with your plan and you're implementing it. Make sure you are sharing that at pretty much every faculty or staff meeting, okay? You know, that communication and that focus is where the success happens. If you just write this plan in year 2, and then year 3, you're implementing it, everybody's gung ho, and then you forget about it, that's not continuous improvement. So make sure you're building that into your staff meetings. Okay, so I just gave you a bunch of resources. So what we're going to do now is use those resources on some of these exemplary plans. So I'm going to get you guys into breakout rooms and I'll explain. It won't be groups 1 through 3 and 4 through 6. I'll put in the chat what plan you're going to look at. Some of you will look at the academic plan. Some of you will look at the Catholic identity plan. Here's what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on using the rubric and the companion guide, which is what I just showed you. And I'm going to pull those up in a minute to remind you. And you're going to focus on, does the goal translate to the plan? Because that's a big thing EVT is looking at, right? You write this goal statement, and then sometimes the plan is kind of disconnected from that goal, and the EVT is kind of questioning how this plan came together, right? So look at, how does that goal translate to the plan? Are you seeing that? And then I want you to focus on boxes 5, 11, 17, and 13. So could you please, real quick, write down these 2 questions on your notebook so you have them handy during the breakout room. All right, welcome back. If you need to use the restroom, please go ahead and use that whenever. We're not going to do like an actual break, but we really should only have maybe about 15 more minutes left, if that, okay? So I'm curious to hear from everybody. Let's start with the academic plan. I asked you to focus on, does the goal translate to the plan? And then I asked you to focus on that one row of the plan, ongoing student learning. So does anybody want to jump in from, I believe it was room 1 that was focusing on the academic plan?
I think,
oh, I
go
say, no, go ahead, Beth. You're fine.
I think we were having a hard time noting that the goal was tied to the plan. We weren't seeing the connections that were made there. To ongoing, like the ongoing student learning. For instance, I mean, we looked at other boxes. I'm really sorry, Amanda. We were looking at the whole thing.
That's okay.
But just trying to see where it all made connections and like what the students were going to be held responsible for. And we found some discrepancies.
Did you feel like the academic plan was a little bit all over the place?
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's good feedback.
Yeah, it
Focus
was
on,
well, and I like initially when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's an exemplar. This is good. I should use this as an example. I don't want to use this as an example.
but it does help you though.
It does.
It does help you, I think.
It does.
In a way, I think it does.
Yes.
So do you think that they need to redo the plan, or do you think they need to rewrite the goal to better fit the plan?
A little bit of both.
Sure.
A little bit of both.
So pick 1 or 2 things to focus on, really go in depth on those focus areas. Don't just throw everything at it and think, oh, because I've got so much here, it's going to pass. In fact, because you have so much there, it's not going to pass. It's not going to be a good plan moving forward. All right, Beth, thank you for sharing. Anybody else from your team want to share? All right, room 2 and 4 looked at Catholic identity. And this is care for God's creation and rights and responsibilities to solve real world problems. So first, did you feel like this goal translated to the entire plan?
Okay, Amanda, ask the question again. What is it you're asking us?
Yes. For the care for God's creation plan, did you feel like when you looked at the plan, it reflected the goal, which is care for God's creation and rights and responsibilities to solve real world problems?
We felt that it was okay. It was just lacking a lot of clarity and some specifics on exactly what they were going to do and what were the skills that were going to be demonstrated. And by we, I mean Kitty was amazing at helping us through this.
Yes, Kitty is from Columbus. She's the advisory member. She is amazing. She's been doing this a long time. Yeah, and I think that's so 2 things about that. I think it's good that you recognize that. But I also think you have to remember when schools are writing this plan, they haven't even undergone the PD yet, right? So, and I'm sure you're feeling that as you're writing your plan. You are trying to write specific things in year 4 of something that you don't even know about, right? So it's definitely a balance of when you're writing the plan, you try to be as specific as possible. And then when you're reading the plan, or if you are on an EBT, you need to understand that they're just doing the best that they can. They've got to try to become an expert in just a couple of months and try to predict what it's going to look like. So agree, it could be a little bit more specific, right? What are students going to do? All right, let's jump down to box 5, 11, 17, 23. Using the rubric, ongoing student performance, the plan outlines detailed scaffolding strategies to support students at different levels of proficiency, ensuring progressive learning each year. Provisions are made each year to encompass new students. How did you think this plan scored on that row?
One of the things we did, we talked about 2 things majorly regarding that row. One being that we weren't quite sure how new students were going to be added to the plan. We felt that that was missing. And then we spent a lot of time talking also about not sure how they're going to model. It says model responsible stewardship, I believe. as one of the things, and we didn't know how you can measure that. Or how they were going to measure it, put it that way.
Sure. Okay, sure, good.
They pretty well kept everything across the board from the very beginning. And they added, it looks like something each year, like the second year, or in the second column, the third under 17 and then 23. But the one thing that our group did get hung up on is that model responsible stewardship. And I didn't see where they were going to do that. You can take the pre-test survey, you can understand, are they improving, are they not improving? That's pretty much a given. They can participate in lessons about poverty and climate change. They can do that. You can say, yes, they did, no, they didn't. And then they can create a service project. So that is something that's concrete. You can see that. But then we'll reflect with their writing prompts and looking at the being able to reflect back on what they're doing. Again, but the one thing that bothers me is that modeling the responsible stewardship. I don't know what they mean by that.
I think you pinpointed that was great, Becky. Absolutely. They can add a few words of by doing what. Yes.
Yes.
Maybe year one, it's recycling. Maybe year two, it's something a little bit more in depth or whatever. Good.
So, and we had commented on those student will sections as well. They were, under the guidance of kids. They are more of a list of activities, but not necessarily telling us how we're challenging the students' knowledge and how they're going to show us you have to be more specific on here's the activity, such as model responsible stewardship. But we said the same thing. We have to take it to the next step and be specific on how they were going to how are they going to model that and be more specific. So it's like, here's the activities, but how are we going to demonstrate the knowledge in those activities?
That's excellent. Great. And so maybe even reduce the number of activities. There's a lot there. Maybe focus and go a little bit deeper and explain how you're really going to evaluate and assess and how students are going to show. I love that. That's great. Another thought on adding new students is a lot of schools will do like grade bands. So they'll kind of state, grades K through 2 are really focusing on this. Grades 3 through 4 are focusing on this. And then the students kind of naturally progress through the plan because each grade band is kind of responsible for a different part of the plan. And so that would be a way to introduce new students to the plan. Any other thoughts on this exercise?
One other comment we had maybe was just, I know it says students well and it's students focused, on what they're doing, but maybe on that year 4, and adding some external activity with the organization that they did the service project for to get feedback from them that the students could have.
That's a great idea. Yes. Getting reflections and feedback on those community stakeholders. Great.
We also suggested perhaps we noticed that they're taking a pre-test every year, but why not offer them a post survey or a post test as well in that 4th year?
That's great. Yep. That's good data to use every year, really, at the end of year 1 to move into year 2 and end of year 2, move into year 3. Yep. All right, well, we are nearing the end then of this session. We're going to skip a few slides on the interest of time and move to the last part, which is using AI to write your plan. Lots of different AI resources out there. My favorite is Copilot. A lot of people like ChatGPT. There's a new one that I'm going to be highlighting in the next newsletter called Magisterium. It's Catholic tradition, Catholic scripture, Catholic documents focused. So all of those documents, I think over 30,000 are built into this AI. So that you're getting correct Catholic teaching instead of just doing a Google search if you use that AI. So you might consider using Magisterium really to help write a goal for Catholic identity and draft up a plan. So I'm just going to give you some tips and just some things that you might want to put into your AI to help you. You can use it to help you write your initial goal. So you can take part of your self-study. Again, if you've used AI, you know it's only as good as what you give it, okay? If you really front load it with some of your demographic data, some of your ARC or MAP or iReady data, some of your survey responses, give it a whole bunch. You know, we're a high school, we're an elementary school, here's where we are, here's what we want to do. Give me an initial goal. It's going to give you like a pretty big SMART goal. That's not really what OCSAA is looking for, but you can narrow it down to just a one-sentence statement. It can outline your plan, provide ideas for scaffolding over 4 years. It'll give you best practice. That's where I think AI is really powerful, is providing PD resources and best practice, because it's going to scour the internet on what are schools doing right now in 2025 in your goal area. So here's an example, and this actually comes from Toledo, which I think, was it Melinda maybe that had shared? Toledo has kind of built their own little AI with the OCSAA framework built into it. And this is what it comes out, right? It comes out with this big SMART goal. Well, this is not what you would put in your plan, but you can then ask it to narrow it down, or you and your steering committee can narrow down this goal to be a one-statement goal. And that was it. I didn't want to spend too much time on AI because I don't want, we don't want people using this entirely, and I don't think you can use it entirely, but if you use it intelligently, it can really be a good time saver, and it can be a really good research aid for you in terms of best practice in PD. So what lingering questions do we have?
Amanda, I don't have any questions, but I got to leave because I've got to help my cook serve lunch. So
Becky?
I'm glad that you have recorded this, and so my team and stuff can get on this and listen to what we discussed today. But thank you so much. And Vicki, I think you're on there too. I will see you tomorrow. So thanks,
All right, bye,
everybody.
Becky. Bye. Any other questions? Okay. We'll skip the post-assessment, and I'm going to talk a little bit about your next steps, okay? So please make sure you're reviewing the administrator resources. Make sure you're consulting with your diocese regarding your exact accreditation schedule. Communicate the status at every staff meeting or every other staff meeting, at least quarterly, to keep that at the forefront of the school. Continue your strategic planning and committee work. Consider sending your staff, faculty, lead teacher for an EVT member training. Especially if you are expecting your EVT in January or February, send somebody to this training so that you know what to expect. It's great PD, it's great networking, and who knows, maybe that person will become an EVT chair, in the following year. Continue to think of continuous improvement and where you want to be in 4 years, and make sure you're reviewing the updated OCSAA handbook. Many of you will be having that EVT visit happen here soon, and so this is just a brief overview of that process. After your internal visit, which is happening about now, your diocesan staff member will alert me that your school is ready, and I will assign you an EVT chair from a different diocese. Your school principal and EVT chair will then work collaboratively together to schedule a 2-day visit, along with developing what that exact schedule, hour by hour looks like over those 2 days. And there are plenty of templates here on that administrator resource page for you to use. The school principal will select 4 to 5 local principals to serve on the EVT team, and will share that roster with the assigned EVT chair. Please note your teachers will be interviewed in small groups. Your plans will be evaluated in light of your self-study, and your box of operating standards will be validated by the EVT chair. So that's a very large overview of what that process looks like. Any questions about EVT?
Amanda, where do we find where there's EVT member training? Where's that located?
That's going to be coming up in December and January. And if you look at I don't think I have an RSVP in the October Thrive newsletter, but in November, the Thrive newsletter, there'll be an RSVP link there. And you can sign up December 2nd and January. I can't remember the January date off the top of my head. Other questions about EVT? Okay, so lastly, here's my contact information. I think you all have that. Please email me if you have any questions or even thoughts about what you're going through right now. And then here is a survey. If you would like certificates of completion for PD, please complete this survey and let me know that you want that certificate. I will also be emailing this survey link here today after the workshop is done. I really enjoyed getting to work with all of you. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for your time this morning. And I'll make sure this recording gets uploaded today or tomorrow. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hi, guys.
Laura, Kitty, or do you think that that was better than last time?
I do.
Yeah, good. It's Vicky's
Sorry,
birthday. Happy birthday, Vicky.
Yeah, sorry I came late. I was too busy celebrating, so.
Aw. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'm sure you were very helpful in the breakout room. So thank you so much. And I'll see you here in a few weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.